you're back. Welcome to another episode of Successful Marketing, Sales, and Relationships for adult small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we help you sell what you make. I'm your host, best-selling author SaDon Long, and we are 56 days away from Christmas. And with that being said, today we're talking about pop-ups and vendor events. This time of year, people are always asking me, well, do you think I should do a vendor event? Or what about doing a pop-up? And here's what I had to say, and here's what I always have to say. Yes, if you can figure out a way to make it not only a short-term success, but a long-term success for you and your business. So now we're going to get in today to talking about how we make it a short-term success and a long-term success. So here's the first thing. The first thing you need to be thinking about if you're going to do a vendor event or if you're going to do a pop-up is how much money will it cost you? Okay, so that's the first thing. As they say, that you got to count up the cost. So how much is the vendor fee or pop-up fee? How much is it going to cost me to deliver my stuff? How much is it going to cost me to have somebody work the booth? How much is it going to cost me if I don't sell anything? See, we very seldom account for the opportunity cost. So if I don't sell anything, what did it really cost me? Because I could have been at home, I could have been somewhere else, I could have been online, I could have been doing something other than this with this time that possibly could have made me some money. So I have to count up the cost if it goes horribly wrong and say, what's most likely to happen? Am I most likely to sell nothing? Because if I sell nothing, then it's not worth my time, and this is how much money I'm going to lose. Can I afford to lose that much money? Can I afford to lose that much time? Because for some people, you might have to pull out a rig, you might have to pull out a truck, you might have to gas that truck up. If you do food, you may have to have prep time to make that food. Then you have to worry about what happens if you don't sell the food that day. Is it something that you then have to give away, throw away? So count all those things up in advance. So before you start looking at any vendors or any pop-ups, you need to say, hey, man, I'm going to have to pay, Sherry $100 just to come and stand there. Or it's going to cost me this much in gas. And while we're doing that, then that means we can't do this. So that's the first thing. We need to really figure out how much it's going to cost us, what our worst case scenario is. And once we know what our worst case scenario is, can we deal with that if it doesn't work? Because one thing about vendors and pop-ups is, even beyond everything else, you can't control the weather. So you could have a great plan and it rains. You have a great plan and it snows. You have a great plan and it's cold. You have a great plan and it's just too doggone hot. So you have to figure out worst case scenario. And I know you're like, well, why are you always thinking about the bad stuff? In business, you have to be a strategic pessimist. Always looking for what could go wrong. Always looking for what could come out of nowhere and keep you from seeing a profit. Now, for most of us, we just get excited to be invited. And when we get excited to just be invited, then we don't do our research and we don't really map out our plan because we're excited to be invited. But if you don't map out your plan, you may lose money, not just on the vendor fee, but all the things that are attached to it. So if you want to have a successful event, you first need to figure out what those numbers look like, what those opportunity costs are, so you can then do this. Now, the second thing you need to really consider when it's time, for pop-ups and vendor events, how much money do I need to make? Now, we've already talked about what our potential losses are. But now, how much do I need to make to offset those losses and see a profit? Okay, so now we've got all our sunk costs, food, gas, employees. We got those sunk costs. Got those, get all those knocked out, written down, inventory, things of that nature, all of that. So now how much do I need to do to see a profit? Okay, so now the profit is not what we want to do. The profit is our baseline. Okay, now we have to do at least this. Okay, so now after we looking at, we have to do at least this, how many people does that translate into? Okay, so if we have to do at least $3,000 in order to break even, how many sales is that? How many orders is that? How many pieces of merchandise is that? Okay, now how many hours are we going to be there? Okay, so that means I need to sell this many of whatever it is I'm selling per hour for this many hours. Now, once you do that, you're going to need to adjust that because there's going to be a peak period. So it may start out slow. So you're saying, well, I need to sell 4 per hour. Well, if it starts out slow, you probably won't sell 4 that first hour. And the same thing goes on the back end when people start cleaning up. You probably won't sell 4 that hour. So what you're really looking at is during this peak period, we need to be selling at least 6 to 8 to offset the non-peak hours. So now when you're looking at your peak hours, you know, okay, guys, we're about to go into our peak hours. Or even if you're just looking in the mirror, hey, this is about to be the peak period. We really need to energize. We really need to focus on upselling. We really need to put our best foot forward so that we could hit our baseline number as fast as possible. Now, if we could hit our baseline number in the morning, we take a little break, we re-energize, and then now we really turn it up for the afternoon. And when you turn it up for the afternoon, now you know you're in the profit mode. And it's like, let me see how much actual profit I can turn. Because what you don't want to be is a vendor victim. And what I call vendor victims are people who are basically at these vendors events. They don't get any sales. They waste a whole bunch of time that they could have been doing something else, following up with customers, shooting content, and nothing good comes out of it for them. So you don't want to be a vendor victim. They took your money and they used your money to do whatever they needed to do with it, and you got nothing in return. Same thing with a pop-up. You had to pay for the space. So now they got paid. So now how do you recoup? So once we recoup, that is not the time to relax because we can't pay our bills with recoup. We pay our bills with profits. And I know people watching me are always like, man, this dude is always talking about the profits because you're a business. And that's how you feed your family. That's how you protect yourself from poverty. Or am I confused? When you work your job, your 9 to 5, you expect to get a check. Why? Because that's how you live your life. So if you have a side hustle or a small business or a hobby that you're trying to monetize, you need to get a check from that too. Now, the checks might not be as big in the beginning, but you have to keep it in mind because what you keep in mind, you manage, and what you manage, you can monetize. Because you're putting your mind and your energy and your time into it, so you'll constantly be getting new and fresh ideas on how to make it better. Okay. So now that we know what our baseline is, now that we know what our peak time is, now that we know how much we need to sell in order to break even, then we know what we have to do. And if it's just you, okay, you need to have the talk with yourself in the mirror. Say, hey, self, every person that comes up here has to buy 2, at least. There's no one item sales. Everything that comes out of here has to be 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're selling blouses or sweaters or purses or handbags or whatever you're selling at these vendor events, they got to walk away with 2. Now, you heard me yesterday, and maybe you didn't, but if somebody asks you for a discount, you need to trade your discount for a referral. You need to trade discounts for future business, not for sales. If somebody's holding that handbag and they like, is this the best price you could give me? You say, hey, well, we got a referral program. You give me a couple referrals, I'll give you 10% off. And I know you're like, well, do people really do that? They do if they really want the purse. Matter of fact, take a selfie with the person when they buy the purse. That way, you get a picture of them making the purchase. Then you keep their name, and when you follow up with that person they gave you, you say, hey, here's a picture of me and the person that gave you the referral. Now, that's not mine. That's Alex Mosey's, but I thought it was wonderful. And I've actually tried it a couple times, and it works. Plus, it'll give you more content for your social media. So when they buy, you take the pic. It doesn't have to be something long, drawn out things. Just like, hey, they bought the pic. Cool. Get a quick selfie with them. On their way. But when that discounting starts, you need to be trading discounts for future sales. And that leads me to my next point. If you're going to be in the vendor pop-up game this holiday season, you need to be creating a customer list. Here's why you need to create your customer list. Because we talked about how much money we need to make in order to break even. If you have a customer list, you can pre-sell. You can invite and ask people to RSVP. You can do all of the above so that you know how much money you're going to make before you even open up. If you're doing food, for example, have people order their food in advance and then have a you ordered online line, or you pre-ordered your food online. Now I know you're saying, well, why would people pre-order their food online and then come to the event and pick it up? Okay, because if they just show up at the event, you might run out. So if you got banana pudding, or you have peach cobbler, or you have, your signature dish, whatever that is, red velvet cake, German chocolate cake, tell people that we only have a limited amount. And if you want it, buy it now, and you get in the pickup line, and you can get your cake, you can get your burn ends, you can get your rib tip order, and be on the way. And if you like, you could throw in a water. You could throw in a soda or a pop, depending on where you are in the country, as an incentive for them to pre-order. Now, if I got pre-orders, or if you have pre-orders, here's a cool thing about that. That money's already in your account. So if you need $3,000 to break even and you see $1,500 worth of pre-orders, now you only need $1,500 to break even. Very simple, easy math. I got money up front. That money's going to cover a portion of what it costs me to be here. And it's letting me know that if nothing else, worst case scenario, I have $1,500 that I've made. Now, here's how you boost that number. Okay. If you want to boost your pre-sale number, you offer discounts to people who make multiple orders. Okay. If you have multiple orders, we'll give you an additional dessert. That's what they do at the restaurant. Why wouldn't you do it at your pop-up? Why wouldn't you do it at your vendor event? Pre-order, 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 pre-order. More orders, more free items. More orders, opportunities for discounts. People in person ask for a discount, you refer them to your referral program. If you have pre-sales and referrals and repeat business, then what you have just done is created a self-growing business, a self-scaling business, a business that is growing by itself. because now one customer turns into three. So for every one customer you get three. So if 5 people come in, they all ask for discounts, they all give me 2 people, now that's 15. If I get the 5 that gave me the referrals to buy again, that's 10 sales from them. And if I get 5 of the people that referred me to buy twice, that's 10 sales from them. And I didn't have to go on social media. I didn't have to put out a flyer. I didn't have to get a billboard. All I had to do was be very smart and strategic with how I use the things that I have to entice customers, like discounts. So again, how much is it going to cost us? What's the worst case scenario? You know, how much do we need to make to break even? And actual inventory. And once we know what the inventory is, then we start working our pre-sales to try to sell as much of that inventory in advance as possible. As possible. That way you can walk away from the event with no merchandise. You can walk away from the event with no food left. You can walk away from the event and only have to take out the trash and not have to transport food or handbags or scarves or butters back to your place. Because obviously what you would like to do if you had a pop-up or a vendor event is sell out. And you can't sell out unless you're selling, right? So there we go. Now, the next thing you need to consider when having, pop-ups or vendor events is who are the people you're having them with and how hard do they work? Again, when you're having a pop-up event, you need to consider the people you're partnering with. How hard do they work? Because one of the things about pop-ups and vendor events is the cross-marketing. Okay, so if you have 15 people who are all going to be at the same event, all 15 people need to be going live. All 15 people need to be posting. All 15 people need to be sharing each other's posts. All 15 people need to be tagging each other. So when you walk into the room and they ask you for your vendor fees and all those things, you need to say, okay, well, what's the strategy for us to promote this event? How do I get in touch with the other people who are going to be here? How do we partner up so that we can then have the maximum amount of coverage and promotion and advertising as possible? I was at an event a few months ago and I was going live every day and tagging everybody who was going to be there and telling people, hey, you need to come out. It would have gone better had they been going live every day, because the events that I've worked where they went live as much as I did and they shared my stuff and I shared their stuff, oh man, it turned into great business for everyone. And I know, for my big wigs and, you got your nice outfits on and you got your credentials and all those things. I know this might be beneath you, but at the end of the day, for the people who are really trying to get to it and do it, for the people who are really trying to come up, for the people who are really trying to get that money, nothing is beneath you. So making sure that people know about you, know about your brand, and using these other 14 people to do it is genius. If you got 7 girls all on the stage together, why are not all 7 of you linking up, doing lives, doing podcasts, shooting commercials with your iPhones and posting them to promote the event? Because if I'm somebody who's inviting you out and you're not promoting, why do I want you there? None of you can afford to be in an empty room And if you can afford to be in an empty room, then you really have no motion anyway. Because I can't afford to be in empty rooms. Anytime that I'm not getting something out of it, I need to be somewhere where I can get something that moves my business forward. And that's how you need to think too. Think too. If you can't get customers in this room, then why are you in this room? Yes, you can go to a vendor event. Yes, you can go to a pop-up. But how do you make it successful for you, both in the short term with sales and the long term with leads? How do you do that? How do you get the most out of the money you paid these people to be there? And my demand to you is, if they're not cross promoting, if they're not promoting you, if they're not sharing your stuff, if they're not putting out stuff to be shared, you don't need to be there. Again, yes, you can have a business, but how do you have a business that changes your life? How do you have a business that allows you to leave your job and do it full time? How do you have a business that covers all your business expenses? How do you have a business that pays you better than a good ass job? You have to marry your marketing and promotion to your sales. And in order for it to grow, you have to get the people who are buying from you to keep buying and to bring you customers. It's that simple. Let's look at the flip side of it. I need to do 4 an hour. 3 people come, I sell them all one item. I still need to get another sale. But if 3 people come and I sell them all 2 items, now I moved 6 units, not 3. And if I'm moving 6 units and I only need to move 4, and this isn't even my peak time of day, what happens when I get to my peak time of day and I'm up 8, 9, 10, 12 units? How much better of a day could I have then? Now, I know this isn't the influencer model, but you're not an influencer. You're a business man, woman. So you can't eat follows. You can't eat likes. You can't eat impressions. You need cold hard cash. Because banks don't take follows. Bills don't take follows. Your kids can't get what they need with follows. And for any marketer who's trying to convince you that those follows matter more than actual sales, shame on you. At the end of the day, you need transactions. It needs to be lead, appointment, sale, lead, appointment, sale, lead, appointment, sale. Lead meaning somebody who wants to do business with me. Appointment meaning that they're probably going to ask me a couple questions that I need to answer in order to get them to do business with me. Sale meaning that there's money in my account. Not like, follow, subscribe. Because unless you have a mean follow-up game with like, follow, and subscribe that leads to you having appointments, how are you going to get to sale? I'll give you another example. Had a client one time, got this new app, had 60 leads, people interested in what he was selling. But he hadn't called any of them back. So guess what happens? If you don't call them back, somebody else will. And if somebody else calls them back and now they become their customer, you no longer have 60 leads. Now you may have 40. And the longer you wait, the less you have. Because in the moment that somebody was ready to make a decision, you were not available to them. Okay. So if you're not available to them and somebody else is calling, is DMing, is reaching out, is following up with them, those customers are going to become their customers. And then it's going to be very hard to get those customers back, because once people have somebody, they're at least going to give them a few months to either succeed or fail. And now, here's the hard part. And I just want to be honest with you. Once that person fails, how likely are they to then want to take the same risk again? You know, if the trainer they hired instead of you took the money and ran, how likely are they then want to give you the same money they gave to somebody else who ran off with it? Because in the service industry, if you're not differentiating yourself from your competition, then they see us all as the same. You know, I'm sitting here right now, and there are certain people who think that I'm just like everybody else. Until you do a little research, and then you start realizing, oh man, this guy's a sales trainer, award-winning sales trainer, a record-setting recruiter, a best-selling author. You know, his work has generated millions of dollars. He's helped people win Emmys. He's helped people win Businesswoman of the Year. He's got a book with one of the richest black men in the country, and he gets great results. But until you do your research, we all seem the same. So if we're all the same, and your customer then walks away with someone else, what's the incentive to get them back? So again, I go back to what I said before. How committed are the people who are hosting these vendor events, the people who are trying to get you to come out and have a pop-up at their store, or at the pop-up in their parking lot, or a pop-up at their place of business, their bar, their social club, or whatever? How committed are they to growing your business? You know, because you need a book of business. And if they're not helping you add to it, how are they helping you? Now, here's the last thing, because I know you guys got a lot of things to do and things on your plate today, and I don't want to hold you very long. In order to make these vendor events really successful, recruit the people at the events. Solicit, recruit, market to, whatever the word that you feel most comfortable using, do that. Because there are going to be people at the events who have proven that they spend money, because they spent money to be here. So maybe there's not a lot of good customers in the event, but the people who are at the event have proven that they will spend money. So if they've proven that they will spend money, why not spend money with you? You know, if they've proven that they'll drop, $250, $1,200, whatever it takes to get into that vendor event, they're a buyer. They're not a thinker. They're not a waiter. They're not a procrastinator. They're not a let me ask somebody and then think about it and I'll call you back in a couple of weeks. They're a person who actually spends money. So if the event is slow, now you go around and you start recruiting and soliciting from the other vendors. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the person who has to pack up all that stuff and drag it back home. And if you end up at a point where you're giving people discounts at the end, I'm going to repeat this one more time. If you end up at the point where you're giving people discounts again at the end, make sure you're giving them a discount in exchange for future business, putting them in a referral program. Because referrals convert at a much higher rate than strangers. And to make it that much better, and this is an Alex Hormozy thing that I tried and I think it was awesome. And when I tried it, it worked. Take the selfie with the person. That way when you send the message to the person, you can also send the picture to prove that that person actually was there and that they actually know you. Any little small edge to get some social proof that makes it easier for you to get a sale works in your benefit. But as always, man, it's your business big bro SaDon Long, a.k.a. the most dangerous man in marketing, a.k.a. Mr. Better Than Your 401k, And if you have any questions about anything we talked about today or anything else that is pertaining to how to grow your business, get sales, keep sales without over discounting and underselling, go to growingrich.com. Click the fast cash call button. They're going to send me an email. I'm going to send you one back. You're going to get a free 30 with me. That's right, best-selling author. SaDon Long. As always, man, it's been a pleasure. We have 56 days to Christmas. I love you, and I'm out.